Just ahead, learn how to ride the big wave of cancer with author and cancer survivor, Meg Stafford.
Are you facing a challenging diagnosis in your life? Or do you know someone who is? Does it feel like your news is filling the frame and squeezing out other parts of your life? Are you wondering how you will get through the next few weeks, months, or even years? As someone who has been down that road, I can assure you that I can help. Hey, I'm Meg Stafford, author of Topic of Cancer, Riding the Waves of the Big C. What started as my breasty business update, which was an email distribution list to help keep people entertained and informed, has turned into an award-winning book that is helping people to get through treatment and assisting those around them to understand what's happening and how they might be feeling. If you need someone to help you walk through this time and to remember that you can enjoy many parts of your life now and in the future, I would love to work with you. I can remind you to stay with what is present and allow not only the sadness, but also the joys in your life, in this moment and going forward. To order my book, learn more about coaching options, or how to ride the waves in your life, go to the website listed here.
It can be incredibly scary when you or someone you love is diagnosed with cancer. Well, my guest today is an author and an expert and someone who's personally experienced that journey. Her name is Meg Stafford. Meg, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kristen. Happy to be here.
Tell me about when you learned that you were going to battle cancer.
It was, that moment particularly was certainly one of the most difficult moments of my life. Even though there is part of me that had anticipated it, because it doesn't drop out of the sky. There are tests leading up to it, and so you know that it's a strong possibility, even if there is a part of you that is hoping that it's not going to be true. So it's a really tough moment. I was fortunate that for me it was paired with the fact that there was a really positive prognosis. But it still meant that there was a big stretch of journey that was unknown and that was going to be difficult, and I didn't know exactly what it was or what it was going to entail, but that it was going to require a bunch of treatment. So that was
in that moment that you heard the news, what was going through your mind?
It's hard to get back there, even partly because I was at work. And so I had to, besides the sinking pit in your stomach, I had to collect myself and work with a couple more clients before I came home. But it's for me, it was really important to hang on to that notion that it was going to be okay, whatever it was. So, and like everything else, that I would have to take it one step at a time, and whatever it was, slow it down so that I could make informed decisions about whatever I was doing and get through it as best I could.
Now, you've written a book about your journey, and I absolutely love the cover. So will you share with us a little bit about your book?
Sure. So it's called Topic of Cancer, Riding the Waves of the Big C, and that is me on the cover a month after I had finished all my treatment. So my older daughter had gone to Peru for a fieldwork term in college, and I went down to visit her. We went to Machu Picchu, which was a lifelong dream of mine, and there's a great picture of her sitting with a llama looking out at the mountains. And at the end of the week, they took all the counselors out to the outskirts of town, and there's a tremendous amount of desert in Peru, which I didn't know, but on the west coast, it's a tremendous amount of desert. So they took us to the place where there are just open sand dunes, and we literally hiked up the dunes with our snowboards that they had brought down from New England, and you'd strap them onto your feet and your shorts and tank top, and slide down the dunes. So it was really fun, and you can't turn very much. So whatever way you're going, that's the way you're going, and you try not to fall because you have a lot of sunscreen on and you'd be just covered in sand. So it was a very fun time.
So were you the oldest person to go down the hill? You
Yes,
have to tell us
I
that
know.
story, yeah.
Yes, it's the director of the program was very sweet and spoke excellent English, and he said something to my daughter in Spanish, and she laughed and translated to me, and that he wanted me to know that he meant it very respectfully, but that I was the oldest person who had ever gone sandboarding, and it's probably by like 25 years. I was in my 50s, they were mostly in their 20s, but it was really fun.
Why did you do it?
I couldn't not do it. It was there, it looked like fun. I've never snowboarded. I do ski. I'm not a great skier, but I didn't imagine I'd be back real soon, and it just looked like fun. I couldn't resist it.
What is the role of adventure and fun for someone who is going through a journey with cancer or really any illness for that matter?
It's certainly important for me. I do think it's important for anybody, and to be able to bring it into your life or to keep it into your life as much as you can at any point, including during treatment. And actually one very powerful moment for me was when a friend and colleague of mine who had been through treatment a few years earlier came over, and she brought a few pictures with her. And one of the pictures that she had was of she and her dad facing each other, both with bald heads, and they both had huge grins on their faces. And that moment, it just coalesced that there were lots of really difficult moments, a lot of painful moments, a lot of sad times, but there was also a lot of fun, because there just was fun in my life during different periods. So it doesn't have to mean that it's all sad and doom and gloom.
So where are you in your journey with cancer right now?
I am heading towards the five-year mark of being finished with treatment. So my initial diagnosis was in June of 2007.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It feels very arbitrary in a lot of ways. I know
Right.
that it is important, but it's in other ways, to me, it's just another step.
Right.
And
What would you say to someone, someone's watching, cancer, the numbers are out there. People are getting diagnosed all the time. What would your message be to someone who's either just found out that they have cancer or they're still going through that process?
I would say, remember that you can do it, that it is a one step at a time kind of thing, and that it's very individual. It's that what the choices that I made at that time were what were right for me at that time in my life. For someone else, it would mean different choices depending on where you live, what kind of support you have, what age you are. My own choices might be different if it were a few years from now, but that it's important to allow other people in. That was a big takeaway for me, because I'm someone who likes to do things by myself. I'd be dragging the laundry down the stairs by myself or doing whatever I can, but it was important. There were times when I couldn't drive and I had to let people help. So that was really important.
Were there any particular lessons that really stand out in your mind, or points that just resonate with you still today?
That's one of them. And I say the quickest way out is through.
Right.
To let it in and let it through as much as you can express it and let it out, the less that it sticks with you. And the writing of the book, for me, was a great tool, because I could get it out of my system. It also was a way to let other people in, because some people responded, and it became a shared journey, so that I never felt really alone, even though I was the one going through treatment at the time.
Meg, you truly are a writer. I mean, you've written the book. You're also always writing articles and blogs. What has writing done for you in terms of just your journey as through your own healing?
it was really important for me at the time. It's important in general because there are things that I observe or see, enjoy, and I have to write about them because it's just fun for me. And so at the time, it was a terrific venue and a permeable membrane of communication between other people. But it continues to be important, both as a way for me to communicate and also because my column is called A Moment's Notice, and it is in the small moments that there is a lot of life. And so I think that I'm able to capture some of those and write about them so other people can read about it. And people will often tell me, oh, that's something I'd thought about but didn't know how to express it. So that's been important.
What does A Moment's Notice mean to you? I mean, it's obviously the name of your blog, but what does that statement mean to you?
It means that both noticing the little moments are important, that it's those little nuggets that are so easy to pass by that we really want to pay attention to, and also a moment's notice. Things can happen on a moment's notice. And the more present you are and the more you're paying attention, the more you're able to enjoy something, if it's as little as, you know, the funny expression on your dog's face, or it can mean paying attention, oh, there's something that's not right here and I need to do something about it. Mm-hmm. So that some people call it the little voice, that if you're paying attention moment by moment, you'll know how to act from there, how to behave, so it can help.
Share with me about your journey through cancer and also continuing to work, just having cancer in the workplace.
It was interesting. And actually I made a lot of conscious decisions about that. It's in my work, in my psychotherapy practice. Anyone who I was working with at the time, I told them basically what was happening at the point at which I knew I'd be coming in with my wig the next time I saw them, because they were going to notice for sure, and I didn't want them to walk to. I couldn't hide it, so I didn't want to walk in and just have them look at me quizzically. So I just wanted to take that out of it. Although interestingly, I recently gave a workshop on the role of self-disclosure in psychotherapy, and one of the people there, all of them were therapists, said that she had been through treatment 10 years earlier and that she chose not to tell anyone. And I was amazed by that, because although the wig that I got, I was sure it was like most like my natural hair. It was
no one will notice, yeah.
It was much nicer. It was in place a lot more often than my own hair ever was, and I didn't know how people could not know. But then there were people who I met later. I didn't just tell. So then it would be when when I took the wig off. Then they would sometimes, some people would ask, some people would look at me a little quizzically, but or people who I'd seen previously and came back in and would see me and sort of, I remember one woman, I hadn't seen her in probably 5 or 6 years, so it had been a long time. And I came out to meet her in the waiting room. She looked at me and she really turned her head, and then she said, "I like it." But I tried to work as much as I could. So I really only cut down the days that I was in chemotherapy. I wasn't coming in the rest of that week. But apart from that, I tried to maintain my schedule.
And what role did that play in your healing?
I felt that my making my life as normal as I could was really important. So one of the choices I made with the first part of my chemotherapy was to have it spaced every 3 weeks instead of every 2 weeks. And that way, on the third week, I really felt really good, and I could go out and bike ride 15 or 20 miles, or I could walk, or really be living my life. And that was really important to me, to keep things as normal as I could. There was one moment where my younger daughter, who was 12 at the time, was on her way out, and she was going on a field trip that day. And I said, have a good time. And she said, okay, thanks. And she said, have a good time at chemotherapy. and there was a way, she wasn't being facetious, and obviously it's not my best day.
Right.
But it was a chance that I would visit with a friend who would take me, and it was incorporated into our life. That was one of my goals, was to, as much as cancer and cancer treatment was a part of my life, I never wanted it to fill the whole frame. It was just a part of.
Or ruin your life.
Or ruin my life. Right. Never occurred to me, actually.
Yeah, you have an amazingly inspiring outlook about your journey through cancer, and I loved your book. Talk to me a little bit. I know you work with companies. You work with people in leadership. What has this experience taught you, and how do you translate into the leaders that you work with?
I think one of the things that it's taught me is really more compassion about what someone may be going through, but you don't know that they're going through, and really how that translates in the workplace. Because as much as we all try not to bring what's happening with us personally into the place where we're working, there are times when
it's just impossible.
When it's really hard.
Yeah.
And how do you handle that? Who do you tell? And how is it affecting your work? There are times when it really may be the best thing to not work for a period of time, but to really be able to be honest about what's happening and assess what's the best way to handle it from there. Certainly with companies in general, my rule of thumb is more communication is better, because people get anxious not knowing what's happening. So if it would be, so having to honor both the person themselves about what's happening and what's happening in the company, it takes a little doing to think about what's the right thing at that time. Whether it be medical treatment or something else that's going on, how much of that do you want to convey to people? And if it's the company that's having a difficulty, again, I would say better that people know what's happening and what the options are, because not knowing is one of the most difficult things. In treatment in general, the
not knowing part is the hardest part.
Yeah, the limbo. The limbo is hell.
Right.
So,
what about someone who is a leader of a business? So it can be either in a corporation or an entrepreneurial business, and you find out that one of your employees or someone who works with you has cancer. What would your advice be for someone, how they could work with that person?
As the leader or as a coworker? Or
in both directions.
I would encourage people to ask that person what they need, what would be helpful for them, or to ask what ways they can be helpful. Because the people who offered me assistance, I knew that they really meant it when they would not just, they wouldn't just say, let me know if you need anything. The people who really wanted to would really be very specific about saying, when can I bring you a meal? Or can I come and clean for you? Or do something in your yard? So I would encourage people to not be afraid to approach someone and to really ask them what would be helpful for them.
There is, I think, Meg, there's such a stigma around cancer. It frightens people. And so have you noticed this?
I have, in that often people don't know what to say. And that was part of the reason for wanting to write the book and get it out there. In fact, one of the people who was reading the emails as I went along said that before reading it, she had always worried that if she got cancer, if someone she knew did, then she wouldn't know how to handle it. But now she feels like it would be workable, it would be doable. I try to demystify any of the aspects of it. It's not a fun part of life, but it is a part of life at that time.
Meg, I see you brought with you a heart.
Yes, my heartstone. So When I am working with people, one of the things that I feel is really important is it's in the delivery. What we say to people is really important, but how we say it is just as important, if not more so. And people will thank you for saying something really difficult if it is really given with great intention and integrity. So someone could say, "Hey, how are you?" And that's very casual. But if they say, "Hey, how are you doing?" You really feel it. And so I just use the stone as a way to, yes. So I might want to say, Kristen, I really appreciate your having me here as a guest. It really means a lot to me, and I want you to know how important an experience this is. And hopefully that would convey it in a different way than saying, "Hey, thanks for having me here."
You know, it's interesting because as you do that, I notice a sensation of just feeling like there's like a weight in my hand. Like it feels like there's substance with what you're saying. And it's funny because as communicators, you know, we just toss words around. And maybe the meaning or the weight of the meaning of what we're saying isn't always translated correctly. Yeah, this is beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. It's, and in our family, sometimes we'll say, "Okay, just tossed a pebble at me." It's because if you think about the weight that you're conveying, I think it's helpful. It can be a helpful tool if you have something difficult to say to someone, because it helps remind you that the way that they are hearing it really carries some weight to it. So if you're saying something about something that was upsetting, it can really help to convey, knowing that if you're receiving something weighty, how does that go? So to say, you know, it was really upsetting when we arrived and couldn't get into the building, then it helps to convey the sincerity and importance of something.
Yeah, you know, and it's amazing how a simple tool or a gesture like that can make a complete difference in how the message is received.
And it can serve as a helpful reminder.
Meg, in your personal journey through cancer, how important was it to just stay focused on what was going on in that moment or that day?
It was everything. As even through the difficult things, it would be better to ride through it than to pretend it wasn't happening. And I tended to have this reaction, I think, to anesthesia. And it would happen a couple of days later, and I would have an hour where I would be like laughing hysterically about something, and then I'd be crying about it. And then there was one time when I was doing this up and down thing, and my husband went to get me a box of tissues, and he said, "Here, I thought you would want this one." And it was like, it was a yellow box, and I wanted the blue box. And I thought it was hysterically funny that it made any difference to me at all. And then I thought it was really sad that it made any difference to me at all. And so, so
you were just like this.
It was just like for that 1 hour, it was just up and down, and then it would sort of be out. But I really feel that it was step by step the fastest way through. And it meant that, there were times when I wasn't thinking about any of it. I went to pick up my daughter at a friend's house, and she had never been there before. And I knew that they were going to be having a party there, and I found the house fine, and I knew that she was there because I could see her sneakers, which had little frogs on them, right inside the door. And I was knocking on the door, and someone even walked by, but either didn't see me or didn't hear me. And so I just tried the door, and it was open. I walked in, and I walked into a room full of adults. And I was expecting to see a room full of kids, and they were adults, and I didn't know any of them, and they didn't know me because I had never met them before. So they looked at me, I looked at them, and nobody said anything for a second. And they were like mid-sentence. There was food around. They were obviously having a great time, had just had a party. And then and I just said,
I'm Kate's mom. And it's like, oh, okay. It's like, I think they didn't know if it was an intruder in their house, but I hold the expression on their faces was just a riot, because they were just completely taken
Who is
aback.
this strange woman who's in my house?
Why is she here? And then one woman actually, we did know each other, but I think she didn't recognize me with the wig, and it was just one of those silly moments that I.
Do you have any other moments in your book that you want to share with us?
Some of my favorite things happen with the ladies in the bank. They're my heroes. And I had just gotten the wig, actually. A lot of stuff happened around my hair, which I was trying to keep a low profile and to have it be as normal as possible. But it was one of the first days wearing it. I walked into the bank, and they had just taken down the dividers, the plexiglass, and the teller, who had never before addressed me by name, like sang out to me across the lobby, "Oh, Mrs. Stafford, I like your hair." And I was just like, didn't know she knew my name. I didn't know what to say. And I was sort of, and she said, "What's the matter? Don't you like it?" It's like, "Oh, no, I do. I do like it. Thank you very much." And
Thank you for calling attention to it. Yeah.
and she had no idea, certainly, about the treatment. So it was all very spontaneous. And then when I took the wig off, it was on Leap Day, and I just had my fuzzy head underneath, and one of the other bank ladies said, "Oh, your hair looks great, short like this." Like, oh God, my
The bank
consultants,
heroes, yeah.
right. Or I was in the middle of Trader Joe's, and a woman, just with my cart and filling with snacks and everything, and she said, "Oh, love your hair like that. I used to wear my hair short all the time, but has anyone asked you yet has anyone mistaken you for a man?" It's like, oh no, that hadn't occurred to me. That hadn't happened. So there are some funny moments, and you have to appreciate those.
Talk to me about travel. I mean, I know you went to Machu Picchu. You have the picture of you sandboarding on the cover. How important has travel been to you?
Travel's really important. And I put together that one of the things that's important one of the things I love about it is that it's really easy to be in the moment when you travel, because everything's different. Things are new. And this past February and March, I went to Nepal with my daughter, who was doing a project on happiness. And while she was studying meditation and Buddhism at the Kopan Monastery, I went on a trek to the Annapurna Base Camp with a friend of mine. And sort of every day, every minute was an experience, whether it was the people or the weather or the scenery, the food. It's just really easy to be there, and I find it fascinating. So I love to write about it. That's coming next. I want to sketch out a book around all of our experiences, and her experience being in the moment and learning to be in the moment at the monastery, and mine trekking up the mountain and I sort of cut back and forth with her and her friends from around the world, and me and my friends at the top of at the base camp, all of us telling our different stories about what we were, where we were from, or what we were doing.
Meg Stafford, someone who clearly embraces your life 100%. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Been great.
Are you facing a challenging diagnosis in your life? Or do you know someone who is? Does it feel like your news is filling the frame and squeezing out other parts of your life? Are you wondering how you will get through the next few weeks, months, or even years? As someone who has been down that road, I can assure you that I can help. Hey, I'm Meg Stafford, author of Topic of Cancer, Riding the Waves of the Big C. What started as my breasty business update, which was an email distribution list to help keep people entertained and informed, has turned into an award-winning book that is helping people to get through treatment and assisting those around them to understand what's happening and how they might be feeling. If you need someone to help you walk through this time and to remember that you can enjoy many parts of your life now and in the future, I would love to work with you. I can remind you to stay with what is present and allow not only the sadness, but also the joys in your life, in this moment and going forward. To order my book, learn more about coaching options, or how to ride the waves in your life, go to the website listed here.